Rumors have swirled for years that Old Granddad 114 was going to be discontinued. This time it was published in an article of vinepair. Is it true? Why would Jim Beam do this? What should you do? If you want to find out, then stick around. Okay, so for this one, we're going to need some heavy disclaimers. And that is because this rumor has gone around multiple times throughout the years. I believe the big flare-ups were in 2017 and 2022, to the best of my recollection. But it came back up when a viewer, Chris, thank you for putting this out to me, sent over a vinepair.com article. It came out on June the 20th, 2024, and it was written by Robert Simonson. And the article, which there's a link in the video description below, was basically about dusty whiskey. And he was explaining how there are whiskeys that have been discontinued and now they have value. And you can go out and you can search and find these old out of production whiskeys and other spirits and so on and so forth. But then towards the end of the article, almost without warning, he said, and I quote, "Recently, however, I learned that Beam Suntory has ceased making Old Granddad 114. An overproof version of the venerable Bourbon brand. Again, there was no formal announcement from Beam that 114 was no more." And he said again, because all throughout the article, he explained that there are very good reasons why whiskey producers and other spirits producers will discontinue a brand and not give the public any warning because they believe that it's going to be harmful for them, more harmful than if they had released some sort of a press release. Now, in the article, he didn't give any indication of where he came into possession of this information, what his source was, or anything else. And he does say that they kind of keep it hush-hush, so that makes sense. And in all of my research, I was not able to find any reputable source backing up this claim that it has actually been discontinued. So why am I doing this piece right now? Well, because I don't know if it's true this time, but I have suspicions that even if this isn't the time that they're going to discontinue it, that the discontinuation of Old Granddad 114 is coming. And I'm going to get into some details as to why I think that's going to happen, even if it's not happening right now. So first off, what is Old Granddad? So Old Granddad is the high rye bourbon mash bill from Jim Beam. And the Old Granddad that's on the label is actually Basil Hayden. And Basil Hayden is known to be the father of high rye bourbon. This mash bill is 63% corn and 27% rye, whereas the average rye content of a bourbon is usually around 13% or so. So this is about double that, although there are some pretty popular examples that are much higher than 27%. Four Roses has a 36% rye bourbon, and I believe that MGP also has a 36% rye bourbon, and their low rye is 21%. But 27 is pretty high for the average. This whiskey is rumored to be 4 to 5 years in age, although it is a non-age stated product. But as we've covered before, if it is a non-age stated whiskey in the United States, it has to be at least 4 years old. If it's less than 4 years old, there's a federal labeling requirement that they say how old it is. So we know it's at least 4, rumored to be 4 to 5. So let's talk about the economics of the situation and what might be motivating this change by Jim Beam. First off, Old Granddad 114 sells for about $23 in my market. And because of my involvement with the Prideful Goat, I have some calculators that will estimate the per bottle cost of whiskey based on the price of the barrel. And I can use those equations to kind of reverse engineer the value of the barrels to Jim Beam selling this whiskey at $23. And when I do that calculation, it tells me that if I was going to try and buy this product from Jim Beam and sell it for the same price as them, I would have to buy those barrels for about $925. That is a very low price, considering that right now the going market rate for 4 to 5 year old Kentucky straight bourbon from a major distillery is $2,000 to $3,000 per barrel. And as recently as 6 months ago, I was getting some quotes for 4 to 5 year old that were almost $5,000. So if you're Jim Beam and you're effectively selling your barrels through your own brand for $925, but you could be selling those barrels to a third party for $2,000, maybe as much as $5,000, you got yourself a financial dilemma, right? So the other thing to consider is that when you own a brand of whiskey and you purport it to be a value brand and you sell it for a very low price, and people, this is on everyone's list of value plays in the bourbon world, it's very difficult for you to raise the price without damaging your brand, since consumers feel entitled to continue to buy that product at the previously accepted price. So Jim Beam has this problem, right? They have barrels, they're selling them for $925, they're worth $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. If they raise the price, it's going to have negative consequences all across the board. And so what did they do? What I think is happening is what Heaven Hill did. So I don't know if you remember this, but Heaven Hill used to have this highly acclaimed release that was mostly available in Kentucky that was a 6-year bottled and bond bourbon. It was 100 proof, and it was, aged 6 years from Heaven Hill, world-class distillery, and I believe that the last time I bought it, it was only $14 a bottle. And so they were facing that same sort of equation. Granted, they were able to add a little bit more water, but still, the numbers didn't make sense. Those barrels were worth far more than what they were making by bottling them in the Heaven Hill 6-year. So what did they do? They discontinued it. They actually made an announcement and said, hey, we're discontinuing this product. But then, just 1 year later, they released a 7-year product. It was off the market for 1 year, and now it has an extra year age statement. Seems like maybe that was a plan. They changed the packaging, and they raised the price from $14 a bottle to $40 per bottle. And we all are happy to pay it because it's a 7-year-old whiskey for $40 and it's bottled and bombed. And I think that Jim Beam is going to end up doing the very same thing with Old Granddad 114. And if it's not now, the question is when. I don't think that they were going to keep this product because it's kind of superfluous. Like, they have other products that fill this market niche. In fact, they still have the Old Granddad bottled and bond that they sell for, I think, just $2 less per bottle. Which is an excellent example of a distillery not overcharging because it's high proof. But the reality is, I think most of the Old Granddad 114 customers would probably just switch over to the bottled and bond product, and they would be able to retain a lot of those customers, and then they could use that liquid for some other project, right? So what should you do as a consumer? Well, it's a tough call because on the one hand, every time this rumor is spread, you got people that go rush into the liquor stores and they clear the shelves of Old Granddad 114, and they've got cases and cases of bottles stacked up in their house, and then the rumor turns out to be untrue. On the other hand, there have been examples of large whiskey companies employing this strategy successfully, and it's unlikely that Jim Beam will continue to sacrifice these barrels of whiskey just to keep up this one brand when they have other things in their portfolio that could capture that market share. So I'm not telling you what to do, okay, because the rumor could turn out to be false. What I would recommend you do is do what I did, and that is you should probably buy enough bottles that you've got some to hold on to for the future, just in case the rumor turns out to be true. But not so many that you'd be disappointed if this isn't the actual end of Old Granddad 114. So for me, I decided to buy 6 bottles to bunker and 1 to open and put on the shelf. And I will be totally content to own 6 bottles of this product at $23 a bottle if the rumor turns out to be untrue, because it's a great whiskey and it's at a price point that I can use it in a lot of different applications, and it'll get used up in my house even if it doesn't get discontinued. But I don't want to be caught unawares and not have the opportunity to bunker at least a few bottles for future consumption if the rumor turns out to be true. So do with that information what you will. Hopefully it was informative on how the economics work for these barrels. We do always do a giveaway on this channel, and this will be no exception. So since we're talking about old granddad potentially being discontinued, we are going to be giving away a full bottle of old granddad 114 to one of you lucky viewers. All you have to do to enter to win is like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you're notified of future content pieces and future giveaways, since as I mentioned, we always have a giveaway. And last but not least, you have to fill out that web form that's in the video description below. It will give me your basic contact information. We'll run a randomizer, post the results publicly, reach out to the winner, get your address, and ship you your bottle absolutely for free. And if you like this content and you want to hear about how you can support the channel, the easiest way is for you to become a Patreon supporter, which is a monthly donation. But it's not just a donation, it does come with a lot of member benefits. We have bonus content, special offers, distillery takeovers, barrel picks, early access to new merchandise, massive discounts on merch, in-person bottle shares, virtual bottle shares every month, and you do also get the satisfaction of knowing that you're supporting this channel and all that it is focused on getting accomplished in the mental health space and connection and so on and so forth. So the other way that you can support is by purchasing some of our merchandise. So we have whiskey merchandise that was made for whiskey people. We have custom designed high proof spirits whiskey tasting glasses that we believe are much better than the most common whiskey tasting glass out there. Dissipates some of the ethanol, helps you really nose that spirit and really find the underlying characteristics of it. We have bottle carrying bags and an aroma kit to develop your senses. We have all kinds of great stuff. And last but not least, I am a real estate agent, and my real estate business has always subsidized this channel. So if you need real estate services in the Dallas or Houston metro area, I would be honored to get in contact with you and interview for that job. And if you want information about any of those three things, Patreon, merch, or the real estate business, there are links in the video description below. Now, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, I'd love to tell you what we're all about, and that is connection and bringing people together. And that became a mission of mine because I lost my younger brother to suicide in 2014. And in the aftermath of his passing and talking with some of his friends, I learned that he had started to lose some of the social connections that keep us bonded to this world. And as I got more involved in the whiskey enthusiast world, I started to notice how whiskey had a unique ability to bring people together. And that made me think that maybe if I started this channel, that I could get you connected to whiskey and whiskey would do the rest of the job and get you connected to others. But if you're going to have connection, you do need a forum to meet other people. And so we created Bourbon Real Talk Community, which is a free Facebook-based whiskey enthusiast forum. You can go join right now. And there were other forums available out there, but we did notice that in a lot of forums, they were dominated by what we call whiskey trolls. And whiskey trolls are individuals that show hate to strangers online and kind of ruin everybody's fun and block the ability to feel connected. And so we made Bourbon Real Talk Community a troll-free environment, so you don't have to worry about that. But not only did those trolls teach us we needed to have our own forum, but they also taught me another valuable lesson, and that is, if they can hate a stranger online that they don't even know, there's nothing that keeps me from loving a stranger online that I don't even know. And that's why we end every episode the same way, and that's this. If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.